Peace to the saints. It's a pleasure to be here with you and share a unique perspective. I know my perspective is unique because I know no one, politician, businessman, millionaire, harlot, uh, and no one who travels as much as I travel and to the kind of places I go. Whether we're talking about the hot spots like a Morocco, a Dubai, a Macau, a Monaco, or we're talking about places off the beaten path like Ethiopia, Albania, the country of Georgia, and many other places. And in my extensive travels, I've gathered an understanding of humankind. And of course, I've had to deal in language. So I want to talk to you all about how my perspective on life and language has evolved over time. When we are young, both the male and the female child, our mother is our first teacher. She is closest to us, for we must nurse from her very breast. And from her bosom, we find that connection and we emulate. For the human being is the result of that which we learn, that which we are trained in, that which we are conditioned in, that which we imitate. And we would imitate the mother. And as our bodies get filled with testosterone and we go through puberty, we mature past that, hopefully. Unfortunately, in this day, we find that a lot of males lack testosterone. A lot of human beings are in arrested development, and so they resemble their mothers, even when they are, in fact, males. The human male must focus on greater things. I have some ideas to challenge you with today. I grew up wanting to learn many languages. I do know some of Spanish, of Korean, of Arabic, and just a little bit of German. And it has been helpful. It has added to my charm, but it has not put dollars in my pocket. It has not been truly useful and functional. And increasingly, it is less useful. Let me confront you all with the reality that you are a mortal. I'm a super player, but you're a mortal. And as a mortal, you have a limited amount of time on earth. You can only be so many things. You might have a shot at being a famous singer. You might have a shot at being a world renowned painter. You might have a shot at being an excellent software developer. But you cannot be too many things, for everything you choose to do takes time, financial capital, emotional wherewithal, connections, energy. And so you have to ask yourself, especially as a man, especially if you are not within the leisure class, what will I use my precious time to do? And what will the return on my time be? So I must concede to you all that when I was younger, not in high school, because in high school, truth be told, I was a hoodlum and a criminal, for the purpose of finances, not just like a foolish gang member, but I was a hustler. And so I wasn't thinking about learning a language. I was thinking about learning to earn. But when I got into university and I was around a bourgeois group of people, my peers who came from the middle and upper classes, average family income was in excess of 100K at the University of California, Berkeley. And I was for the first time among a diverse group of people. Then it seemed like something to consider to learn a language. And in fact, there was a language requirement for undergraduates. So I took Spanish for a semester, which fulfilled my requirement. I actually learned quite a bit. And I didn't use it. I eventually was able to use some of my Spanish when I moved to Puerto Rico as a business person. But I'll have you know that all of the Puerto Ricans who are young and beautiful, they all are fluent in English. It's pretty much their first language. And all of the Puerto Ricans who are wealthy and important, all are fluent in English. So in the many places I've traveled and the 3 passport books I filled up, I've only had 2 situations wherein I felt as though I would have an advantage in knowing another language. But I want to give it context because context is important. So firstly, let me be clear on the points we've established already. Language Learning new languages is increasingly useless because of technology. There are technologies that allow language to be translated in real time through your AirPods. There are technologies that allow language to be translated in real time through your smart glasses. So why would you then take out time to learn a language? Especially if you can understand me now in English, the language of aviation, the language of business, the language of entertainment. You'd be a fool to waste your time learning language, except that you're either a woman, which means you don't have to dedicate your time to meaningful things because you might just meet a rich guy who'll take care of you. Or you are in the leisure class, which means you're so wealthy that you don't have to work or dedicate your time to meaningful pursuits because you're sitting on top of a pile of money. But for everyone else, you should choose what you would be and focus all of your time and energy on that such that you can become someone of note. And when you are someone of note, your language skills matter not, except those skills that are in English. And the reason is for this. As I said, in the many countries I've traveled, there's only been two wherein I said, you know what? Speaking their language could really help me out. I've been to Morocco in excess of who knows how many times. And I've been all over Morocco to the hot spots like Marquett and Casablanca, where everyone flies into, and Agadir in the south, and even Oujda, a more spiritual town in the northeast. But I've also been to places like Beni Mellal and other fairly lesser known places that are rural or remote and mountains. And even if you're Moroccan, you'll probably never go to the towns in Morocco that I've been to. And in some of these towns, if you don't speak any Arabic, Maghrebi Arabic or Moroccan Arabic, if you will, you don't speak any French, you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge doing certain things when you're dealing with people who may be in the service class, maybe a tailor or a taxi driver or a cleaning staff. So it'll be difficult, but you'll never be in rural Morocco. Secondly, when I went to China the very first time with my assistant as a tourist, and I was trying to do some business deals there, create some business deals in my textiles business, it was difficult to describe some of the more specific and peculiar things. And I was thinking, gee, it'd be really helpful to speak Mandarin. Now, this is ironic because when I was in university, a professor, academics, they are in the ivory tower where they have data but little experience. They were stating that China is the biggest English-speaking country. And when I was in China, I was very certain that that was not the case. However, I left China, and then I was invited back to do business, not for my textiles business, but for my tech business. And when I came back as a part of a group of entrepreneurs from around the world who lead high growth companies, in fact, hyper growth companies, the Chinese government took great care of us, toured us through many cities, and made significant offers to us. Would you like to establish a factory here? Do you want to live here? We'll get you 2 apartments. You can choose how you want this factory set up. You can have a gym inside of it. You can have an apartment inside of it. Your call. The budget is infinite. And when they invited me back as a high-powered businessman, they had interpreters following me everywhere, along with camera crew, photographers. But interpreters were there constantly. And when I went to different cities and we talked with the local government, the public-private partnerships there were interpreters. And as I've gone throughout my business career, when I was living in South Korea, the government provided interpreters. And when I was in Puerto Rico, even though Spanish is kind of a primary language, all of the business was done in English. So I found that when you are somebody, when you have a real skill set, when you have real value add, you don't need to speak their language. They're going to figure out a way to understand. They'll hire an interpreter or you'll hire an interpreter if the money's right. So pursuing language is really a bourgeois thing, and now it's a passé thing because technology makes it very unnecessary. We're going to get into it a little bit deeper, sending your questions, comments. Every time I come to speak to you, I come with a real offer of knowledge that will light your path and make your way easier. For I tell you, though my life may look easy, and it is quite nice. I mean, look at the hand painted wall behind me. It's quite nice, but it was not always that way. I had to work very hard. And the only reason that you can see me in the strong position I'm in without a wrinkle on my face, without a gray hair growing out of my head or face, is because I was very efficient. I was hyper focused. I didn't waste time on BS. And I thought in a fundamentally masculine way, which is to say, eyes on the prize at all times, no distractions. May I acknowledge, shout out to Chung supporting the work. May I also acknowledge Voss, a new member. We welcome you warmly within this thing of ours. Shout out to Kaylin, writes, very interested in this one, considering I'm studying 2 languages now. I don't know if you mean in university, taking formal degrees. He writes, Spanish and Mandarin. Spanish is a fine language. I've never been anywhere in Latin America and not been able to get a deal done due to not speaking Spanish. And Mandarin is not an easy language. And apparently there's billions of Chinese people. So I don't think they probably need you to speak Mandarin, but it's cool. And I think often people do these kinds of things for cool points, and it can get you somewhere. But I challenge that you don't need to know as much as you might think. You have to know how to do things. For example, I was recently in Miami, and there was a woman who just really had a stony, solemn look, as though her life was very unpleasant. She was my waitress, unfortunately, a pretty attractive woman, well-shaped, older lady. I could see that she didn't have a wedding ring on, and she just looked like she was hating life. I observed on her name tag that her name was foreign, and I could tell that it came from a certain region. And I observed that the particular region was like Macedonia. And I knew how to say thank you because in both Macedonia and I want to say Serbia, it's the same word. You can use the same word. And so she came and took our orders and left and came back and checked on us and left and came back and gave us the check. And when she handed the check, I said, thank you in Macedonian. And all of a sudden she woke up and went from a stony face, serious woman who was not about to get a good tip. She was going to get the basic tip. To a warm, interested, fascinated person who all of a sudden had been awakened from a slumber and turned on in many ways. And she says, well, how did you learn that? I said, touring. She says, well, why would you go to Macedonia? It's a small, poor country. Why would you go there? I said, I go everywhere. She says, oh my gosh. She was like, and then she stopped there and told me her whole life story. Yeah, it took like 10 minutes. Not in like movie time, but in literal time. It took like 10 minutes. And I was sitting there looking at Shorty across from me thinking like, I didn't mean to go from like you being a pallbearer, like you being like so serious to you being chatty patty for 10 minutes. But the fact is just that small acknowledgement of her culture and her existence and creating a bridge and showing that I have some level of experience and sophistication and awareness of that which she comes from, especially with her being from a bit of a backwater, it had great meaning and it lit her up. And these are the kind of things that open up opportunity for you. But it wasn't a matter of me knowing the language. It was a matter of me being very observant, a matter of me being sophisticated, and a matter of me taking the opportunity and positioning the opportunity, creating the opportunity. I didn't have to be fluent in Macedonian. She didn't expect me to be. Just knowing one word and having been there and having some, little bit. She did all the talking. In that 10 minutes, all I said was, oh, yeah, for 4 days. Right, okay. When was the last time you've been back? Cool. And that's it. And that got me a tremendous amount of mileage. She told me everything about herself. I came to the United States, and this year, if you would have ever told me when I was in Macedonia that I would live in Miami, I would say never. I didn't have any interest in America. Now I'm here. I'm married to a Jamaican man, and so on and so forth. So that's not about learning language. That's about being gamed up. These are the kind of things I teach you in Boss University, which is how to think like a boss, how to connect with people, how to influence people, how to lead people, how to be worthy of that positioning. So don't confuse that with knowing the language. And of all the languages there are on earth, there are many. And if you're trying to learn the language so people think you're cool, oh, it's a black guy that speaks Mandarin, That might make a nice TikTok video, but it's not a great use of your time. It's not something that's going to allow you to eat over a lifetime. The gentleman further writes, both in connection to my career, I'd love to hear your insights on such endeavors. Yeah, if you have enough value, you will have a translator and you will not pay anything for the translator. And the other side of the business deal will be happy to provide the translator. I promise you. Shout out to Sam. He writes, I am Saint. Peace of the Saints. Yes, indeed. And I appreciate your support. And thank you to all of those who stand up, make your name known. Shout out to those who pay what you owe. Shout out to those who show love to those who show love to you. May I acknowledge a double baller alert? Shout out to Drip Lord Entertainment writes, peace to the Saints. Saint, you are dripped out. Love to see the jacket. Is some premium super villainy. Keep shining. Sir, yes, sir. I appreciate you. You know, this is a little bit of light work. You know, we're still in prototype phase. I'm making sure that it get right. I wish you all could touch this, to be honest with you. I hope my smile is a little bit brighter because this does feel like very lovely. It's my leather's so soft. My leather's so soft. I might never take it off. Yeah, this white leather is just very, very soft. I can't lie to you. Anyways, you know, we didn't redone the thriller. We didn't redone the thriller. You know, it's not perfect, but it's damn close. Yeah, I'm still seeing how I want to style it. Do I want to style it with the white shirt under, with the black shirt under? We're going to see what it do. But this is the kind of phenomenal products, unique products that you can create after taking the course that I offer, which is how to start a product-based business with $500 or less. The course is very low cost. And if you have $500, you can get started. Entrepreneurship is something that can change the trajectory of your life, unlike learning a language. Shout out to TK the Preneur writes, peace to the Saints, big homie. SoCal Saint here. I'm ready to get this monthly traditional workout tomorrow with my fellow Saints tuition. And shout out to all the Saints getting their work in. I just finished getting some work in myself. That's why we're a little bit tardy. But as you all know, exercise is prayer. Let us never interrupt prayer. Noor writes, peace to the Saints. In the age of AI, what business opportunities have personally excited you, if any? You know, I hear a lot of the youngsters, they create narratives as to why they're in poverty, but the narrative never includes themselves. It's always like, oh, things were so cheap back when you were young. Things were so easy. It's like, no, actually, it was very difficult. If you wanted knowledge, you had to show up in a library and the knowledge would be old, not new, because it takes time to publish books, and not free either. If you wanted to hear from a millionaire, you'd have to go find one, which was damn near impossible if you grew up in the ghetto like myself. And if you wanted to become rich and famous, you couldn't do it overnight like you can do today. If you had a particular goofy hobby like playing video games, which is really nerd stuff, you couldn't monetize that. You're just some dweeb playing video games. Now you can monetize anything, including your butt crack. You're in the easiest time ever to make money. You just do not realize you're a brainless zombie that is providing for your own undoing. The good news is if you're a real man with any level of testosterone, any ability to communicate, any level of discipline, which you get from things like Boss University, you get the ability to communicate from the Master Communicator course. I make the courses that you need. That will take you to the top and you'll have a great advantage because your competition is minimal. You hear me? Your competition is effeminate, soft, thoughtless victims. You're going to beat these people because you have knowledge that they don't have. Anyways, I say that to say this. AI has changed the world, but technology has always changed the world. And in fact, we are always in the same time. And this is what I mean. I talked about this in conference 3. If you want to get conference 3, the introduction talk really relates to what you're speaking of, which is like, what is the context that we're in today? And in conference 3, which you can go to thesasn.com, THESASN.com, click products and go to conference 3, get the full thing. It starts off saying, we're in the best of times and we're in the worst of times. And the lecture concludes that first one explaining how it's always the best of times and it's always the worst of times. You get to pick. It's the duality of human life, the saint and the sinner. You get to pick. You can choose to be poor or you can choose to be wealthy. And it depends on you. So you're in an age of infinite opportunity. You're in an age where so many things that are tools of wealth are very low cost. Computers are low cost, cell phones are low cost, sophisticated technology is low cost, reaching markets on the opposite side of the planet Earth is low cost and effortless. So if you can't get rich today, you certainly would not have done well in the past. And in fact, today you have the opportunity not only to become wealthy, but to become super wealthy. And, I encourage you to do it. You heard me? It all depends on you. So with regards to AI, what I have found most impressive is the ability of AI to write computer code. And I know how impressive it is because back in the day, I studied Ruby on Rails. And then I've put together a number of technology companies and products. And so I know how sophisticated it is and how slow development actually goes. So when things are hard coded. So this is just for those of you who are not technical and never have been, you don't understand how extraordinary it is to see AI write front end code, even just front end code that would take weeks to do, it can do in the space of an hour. It's really just, it's astounding, honestly. But what you all don't realize is that you think AI is de-skilling you. It's not. AI actually requires you to be more skilled because you're going to have to be able to create, manipulate, influence, if you will, the AI. You still have to have intelligence and skill set to utilize AI at the level that's going to make it profitable for you. Because remember, anything that is common, commonly known, commonly available, common knowledge, it has little value. So if everyone can use basic AI to answer questions or to generate images, you're not going to be able to monetize that. You're going to be able to monetize the AI that's more sophisticated and only accessible to the few. So remember, if something is common knowledge, it's too late to make money on it, generally speaking. Shout out to Angel Reacts or Angel Reacts. He writes, "Peace to the saints. Thank you for your knowledge, sir. Looking forward to new member orientation." And yes, may I encourage all of you, today is a fine day to join thesasn.com for tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will have new member orientation. Yes, indeed. And thank you, Lil Kashka. There's the conference 3 footage. Highly recommend it. May I acknowledge via Venmo, Mr. Carter writes, "I've been waiting for this one." Well, here it is, sealed and delivered. Shout out to Frank or Frank. He writes, "Hold on, boss. Forget the languages for a moment. What are you wearing?" Damn, that's cold. I appreciate you, man. Yes, indeed. And when you're a super player, often when you're wearing some real drip, you hear me? The drip just brings things out of people. And, Shorty will say, "Oh, can I touch it? Can I touch it? Oh my God, it's so soft. Oh, I feel tingly. I feel tingly. Oh my God." So that's a part of the vibe. One thing I do like the buckle here, the full metal buckle. We're gonna need to make this a little able to clasp tighter. So that's one of the imperfections. But aside from that, it's flawless. It's flawless. Now also acknowledge, shout out to the Atlanta section. I see Dallas, his membership just renewed. Shout out to the ballers. Jabari comes in with the baller alert. And this is a real ballerific conversation, right? We should all be balling on this one. Jabari writes, "Should I learn the language of my lady's home country?" Well, context is important. For example, if your lady is Hungarian is not an easy language to learn. And if you're not going to live in Hungary, maybe not such a good use of your time. Remember, life is different from a boss's position. Boss University, it sets your mindset. You're not a beggar in this world. People come to you with requests. They come to you with offers. And so, you don't have to explain to people. You don't have to impress people. You don't have to, you don't have to answer questions. You're the boss. And so from a boss's position, now that you're in that mindset, you should ask yourself, well, what would be the purpose of me learning my lady's home country language? So if my old lady is Filipina, why would I learn Tagalog? Are we going to live in the Philippines? And if we do, are we going to live among people who don't speak English? Improbable. So in all likelihood, the answer is probably no. Yeah, right? Like, we're just being real out here. Yes, indeed. I also acknowledge Matthew with the baller alert. He writes, "Peace to the saints. Contributions to the revolution How have you been, Mr. Bird? I've been fantastically well. So happy to be settled, really for the first time in life. When you grow up poor, and I really don't wear that as a badge of honor. I would have preferred to have grown up very wealthy, just me personally. But I grew up very poor, and so I got evicted a lot. And I think that kind of created a vagabond spirit in which I was comfortable being a Rolling Stone. And I pursued wealth for a long time, and that came with government grants, which required me to set up offices in different cities and different countries. And so for many years, I never lived anywhere at any address ever in my entire life for more than like 3 years, 4 years at one address. When I lived in Vegas for 5 years, that's the longest I'd ever lived anywhere in my entire life. And so now because it's taken so much to end up here, I think this might have to be a forever home. I'm not saying I won't buy more real estate, but I think I'll definitely keep this one and keep this as a base. And also, I've already spent a tremendous amount of money because the inspector did an atrocious job here. There's so many things he should have noticed, things that have already ran up 6 figures in cash spend. It's extraordinary. But such is life, c'est la vie. So I say all that to say, I'm at a great level of peace. I walk the grounds every single day, walk through my gardens, and it just gives me extraordinary peace. Butterflies everywhere. The whole walk is fragrant from the flowers, the sunlight, the utterly fresh air, the true level of peace and seclusion. I could walk around butt naked like Adam and Eve, you heard me? So it's really good. And anything that has interrupted my peace has been very minor, trivial, and sometimes comical. Like the folks who came to deliver my washer dryer drove all through my grass. And I was kind of like, but I'm going to have 6 more delivery trucks come. So I'm just going to have to let these people destroy my fine grass and then have it reseeded after all of our deliveries are completed. Thank you for asking. So I say all that to say I'm fantastically healthy and happy, and my problems are luxury. So I appreciate them. How have you been? It's good to hear from you. May I acknowledge Pawan, Wagwan. He writes, peace to the saints. Thank you, Mr. Burton. Came in by Venmo. Appreciate you. You are welcome. And I thank you as well. May I also acknowledge Dalil with the bowler alert. He writes, peace to the saints, first time tuition. May we all commend him for doing something new. He writes, I'm a young man pursuing a bachelor in psychology. Rough. But I'm unsure as to what career field to venture into. Well, that makes sense because psychology, A, is a pseudoscience at a level, and B, I don't recommend it. He writes, I know that you've previously stressed the importance of being aligned, especially while young, at all times, really, but when you're in your early 20s, this is when you have the highest levels of energy. Now, me personally, I can run through a wall. That's just me, though. But for most people, you're about to survive based on the foundation you've created in your early 20s. You might not even realize it. You might not even be successful in your early 20s. However, it will be the base. For example, in my early 20s, I was struggling for mere existence, building tech businesses with no realistic prospect of it ever making me a significant amount of money. But I was optimistic because I was young and without knowledge. And with that optimism and that hard work and the constant moving and shaking, I was able to make something. And even today, everything that I've built has been built on top of that. It's been built on companies that I founded when I was a young man, a young CEO. It's been built on connections and network and reputation that I created when I was in my early 20s. Do not squander your early 20s, I promise you. It is not smart. And doing the wrong thing is less than ideal. I used 2 years in public service, serving the people. And if you've read my book, The Black Box, you would know better than to do that. I guide you away from that. So if you're a young person, even if you're a mature person, read The Black Box. It is a book of guidance that will give you great clarity as to how to operate in this world based on you winning. Come on now. The gentleman writes, I wanted to ask, what is your advice in terms of achieving alignment and regaining alignment in case of misalignment? Well, I would tell you this: if you're studying to be a doctor and you hate the course of study, you might not like being a doctor. If you're studying to be an attorney and you despise the legal books, then you might not want to be a practicing attorney. So think about, am I enjoying the course of study? I would look at the realistic job that I want, figure out how much does it make and what's the true path there? How do I get there faster? And make sure that like you're perfectly aligned. For example, there was a young lady recently had shared that she worked at a fast food restaurant, and I was kind of mind boggled as to like, well, why would you ever do that if your goal was not to be in hospitality? You see, there's nothing more dangerous than there's certain dollars that are dangerous. If you're earning the dollar doing something you plan on never doing and it has no connection to anything you'd ever want to do, that's a dangerous dollar. It's a distraction. You are going the wrong way. You are being you're being seduced. You're being controlled by money. Money has become your God. You're without purpose. You're dying spiritually. Hmm? There you go. Thank you for that question. That's an important question. You're asking the right questions at this time in life. May I acknowledge Raymond? He writes, what's your advice when spitting game to a woman who speaks a different language? Peace of the saints. The beautiful thing, and I've talked about this on our drip trip, and if you all haven't gotten your drip trip tickets, I highly recommend it because they always sell out. On the drip trip, we of course meet a lot of women from around the world: Israelis, Italians, Eastern Europeans, Africans, various women, people from Asia, Vietnam, speak no English at all, Brazilians. And number one, it's the same as any other engagement. Step one is, does she find you sexy? You hear me? Like, is she looking at you like, you know, I might let him get up in here? Pause. So that's step one. And again, when I talk about spitting game in general, I always say it's not wholly about what you say. It's about how you say, and it's about presenting yourself. And sometimes that's all it's about, presenting yourself. There are girls that you can knock down. They didn't understand what you said. You didn't understand what they said, but you both are being driven by the same thing. You know, it's Friday night. It's 1 a.m. You both find each other attractive, and you've expressed that to one another. And then you were man enough to lead her to the correct place to get things accomplished, which requires no words at all. Often we fumble over, we use too many words where they are not necessary. And I can give you an infinite number of examples of that, but I think you get my point. But in the absence of body language, if you did want to say something to the young lady, use Google Translate. Google Translate allows you to click a button that will highlight a red microphone. She can speak in her native tongue and it'll translate it to English, and you can go back and forth. And I can assure you, if the woman's interested in you, she'll go through with that and it'll be fine. And if she's not interested in you, she'll kind of be like, oh, no English, which doesn't really mean no English. It really means maybe I do speak English and I just don't want to talk to you, or I don't speak English and the effort isn't worth it. And that's okay. It's a volume game. Thank you for your question. Shout out to Mr. Ruffin. He's been very consistent. He writes, peace to the saints, tuition, Florida assassin. Shout out to Florida. Shout out to SoCal. They out here outperforming the other sections, you dig? I think Atlanta was in here as well today. So shout out to Florida, Atlanta, and SoCal sections. They've been pulling up today. May I also acknowledge, shout out to Noir. He writes, peace to the saints. Oh, actually, I already got those. Jay writes, what are your thoughts on XRP and the collapsing of the current monetary system? Peace to the saints. I don't think the current monetary system has collapsed. And before it does collapse, you'll see extraordinary levels of violence, which we've yet to see. We've seen currencies fail. The Deutschmark is one of them. We see the currency of Zimbabwe. I think they're trying to back it with gold now, if I understand correctly. That is hugely inflated, which was basically a result of the Western powers, the colonial powers. So the monetary system has not collapsed. That just would not be correct at all. XRP, I looked at many years ago. At that time, the fundamentals were rather impressive, but I don't deal in crypto because it's something that is close to, at this level, a Ponzi scheme, and it's gambling just like paper assets, but it's even more high risk in as much as there's no underlying asset, though it is traded as though it is an asset. And it certainly is not a currency because almost no one transacts with cryptocurrency. And even Bitcoin, which underlies the whole system as the gold standard, the only persons I've ever known to transact with Bitcoin, and this is including the people I know who have been long on crypto, people who are in tech and sophisticated, the only individuals I've ever known to actually transact on a regular basis with Bitcoin have been women of the night. You hear me? Women who earn their money laying on their back, taking pipe. Anyway, shout to Payne. He writes, not a thing, just came in supporting the work. I appreciate you. Shout to those men that stand up, make their name known. You are all appreciated. I also acknowledge those who, and look at bro right here. He said XRP is not the boo. Yeah, who knows, right? But I tell you what, one thing I do like is to invest in a company that has an asset or a great product. If you ever experience a product and it's addictive, it's high quality, you don't have to think so hard about what's going to happen, whether your money is going to rise or fall. Shout out to Charles. He writes, tuition came in via Venmo. Appreciate you. Yeah, it's going to be fairly obvious. There was one company, I think it was on the French exchange, and it was a French company, let's just say that. And I got their product, and their product had like a couple features, some of which are more AI and sophisticated. But in using the product, I didn't use the AI. I used one of their more simple features, but it was so useful. And when I looked at the competition in that industry, it outperformed everyone aesthetically, from a style perspective, from a utility perspective. And I said to myself, these guys are going to win. And they were impressive enough that I went to buy their shares of their company, OTC, because it's a foreign company. And I bought those shares. The company went up 19%. So I sold it because, I'm not trying to leave my money in the stock market. I got 19% on my money. I'll take it. So I sold it. And then I put in a buy order to buy it in case the company ever dropped down again in share price. Through all of the tariffs, all of the BS, their stock has done only this, which is impressive. It speaks to my ability to identify value in a corporation and their product line, and also to the fact that when you buy a good stock, some of them will be insulated from, silly presidents who fake like they're tough. And it'll be insulated from certain macroeconomic realities, and it'll be insulated from speculation.